Well, you're not rubbing your eyes, Roland, so it means that you are either young, fit, and energetic, or that you found some way of combining watching the cricket with getting some much needed rest, I'm sure. And West Indies battling against New Zealand. What's your assessment of the opening day?
Yeah, Philip, first of all, the answer to that, your initial question is none of those things that you suggested. But yes, I did watch last night. I laid in my bed and watched it on my phone. Um, I think the day's play, if you take it in its entirety and in the context of things, must be a pretty satisfying day for the West Indies. The fact that they were playing two relative newcomers, obviously Shield making his debut, and before that, Lane has only played the one game. So you have got a really makeshift attack. If you think that you've brought back a guy that you had retired in Kimar Roach, so you've got a new retiree back in the side, a person with one Test match and one making his debut, and then have New Zealand in this position 231 for nine. I think you must be pretty satisfied with that, even though if things remain the same, it's likely to change um, somewhat tonight.
When you say it's likely to change, you mean the conditions or the who's in charge?
I'm talking very much about the conditions.
Mm.
I think it's a very helpful pitch. You can see the odd bunks. Obviously, the New Zealand bowlers will be a lot quicker than ours in terms of two or three of their bowlers, so they will be hitting the splice of the bat more often. So if the pitch remains the same, I think our batters are going to have quite a torrid time batting this evening.
Yeah, well, before we get to that though, you mentioned two things that I want to draw you in on. One, you mentioned a guy who was retired and has been brought back. How did he match up, especially when you compare him with the other bowlers in the attack?
Well, Kimar Roach does what Kimar Roach has done for the last 5 years. He uses his experience. We knew Kimar Roach before when he was a tier fast bowler with a guy who bowled in the high 90s. Now, over the last 5 years, he has really developed his skill. Sorry, as a medium fast bowler with the occasional ball that he can bowl quite quickly. But his game now is based pretty much on hitting good areas, moving the ball both ways, maintaining a good line and length, really making batsmen make mistakes. He's not no longer blasting them out. So New Zealand conditions are tailor made for him. I think he will be the best of the bowlers in New Zealand because his game now is more of a conservative nature. And, Jaden Seals will be a handful or so down there, but he will go for more runs because he's very much an attacking bowler. Roach he's going to settle into a good area, bowl tight, and his figures reflected that on the first day.
17 overs, six maidens, two for 47, economy of 2.76. And actually, the only one who bettered that, and that's a kind of an unfair comparison, would have been Ross and Chase, who his economy was 1.62. But of course, he's a spinner and also bowled virtually less than half the overs that Roach bowled. Eight overs, two maidens, one for 13. The other pacers, not that they were particularly expensive, apart from Johan Lane, who went at over four. She's almost four. But your point is well made, I think. The other thing in terms of the bowling that I want to get you to comment on, I know you were not a fan of bringing Shields into the final 11. Having seen that done, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, listen, I'm glad that he got the opportunity and he got a couple of wickets. But as I said, I would not have played him in this first Test match. I am very surprised that Anderson didn't play, who played obviously in the last series. I'm not sure whether he has an injury or not. I'm a little bit out of it from here, but I'm sure you would have much more idea whether Anderson is fit. I think he would be a bit hard done by if he was fit, having been, one of the frontline bowlers really in the last series, suddenly to find himself being overtaken by two complete newcomers. So, that's a harsh thing for him. In terms of the other situation, I'm a bit surprised that Gavin Hodge didn't play because this pitch is going to be a fighting pitch, and you're going to need players with a lot of character, a lot of guts, a lot of fight on it to survive. And while Imlat is a promising player, for me, I think Hodge would have been more suited in these conditions to, to fight it out in the middle order. But yeah, but as I said, Lane, he played one test before, so he got the opportunity. But Shields also was quite fortunate to play in this one.
I don't know if they would have turned back the clock with Imlach though. With Hope doing so well when Imlach took over the gloves, doing so well with the bat that is. And to be quite honest, I've been concerned about the idea of Hope keeping in all three formats. That's got to be very difficult. So I'm a big fan of the idea of Imlach playing as keeper. I think he's a pretty good batsman as well. I take your point about Hodge though. That's not to refute what you're saying about Hodge, but to my mind, Hodge would probably have had to be fighting for a place maybe with the Athenaeus, or I don't think they would have toyed with the opening position in maybe asking Justin Graves or someone else to open and leaving out Chandler Paul. That would be the only other way. So if
No,
Hodge
my
played as a
my,
middle
my
order,
suggestion was never down that line. My suggestion always was that Imlat didn't play.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. But
But
I quite take that. So what I'm saying is that I don't think that there was ever really much of a chance that Imlach would not have played, given that when he last played, Hope we saw Hope freeing himself with the bat and doing quite well. And one may want to read into that, I mean, it might be purely coincidental, Roland, but one may want to read into that Hope that the task of keeping and batting and being one of the top batters maybe asking a lot of Hope, and therefore you may get more out of him with the bat than if he's not keeping. As I said, who knows? That's one way of looking at it. But the fact that he did well when he wasn't keeping may be purely coincidental. Who knows?
well, I mean, you may be right there, but
Yeah.
I think horses for courses. I think this is a different ball and attack to what they would have faced
Mm-hmm.
in the last series. It's going to be much more challenging in conditions that they know really well.
Mm-hmm.
Runs are going to be at a premium. And, I just feel that Hodge would have been, for me, the better trenchman.
Yeah, no, no, I'm
In
not disputing that
this
in terms of the bat, but I would not have
yeah.
played him for Imla. The other way you could have gotten Hodgin to the side, would have been strangely enough. I mean, it sounds strange to you, but one of the Pacers. And why do I say that? I think sometimes we label people um, based on the wrong thing. For example, I always recall a conversation I had with our friend Wayne Holden many years ago, before Chase took his 8 wickets, and I was trying to show him that we could develop Chase into a good all-rounder. He saw Chase purely as a batsman. That's because
Mm.
when we first do Chase, that's what he was. And we
Yeah.
tend to label, and my argument was at that time that Chase is not considered a good spin bowler because he can bat. But in actual fact, he's probably a better spinner than some spin bowlers who are specialists. So, having said that, now to bring that to this debate, when you look at the pace attack that we have, Seals was recorded up in the early 130s in the first day. The only other bowler who, when I was watching, obviously I would not have seen every ball that was bowled. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And they don't put up the speed gun after every ball. But
Yeah.
from the evidence that was presented, the only other bowler who went into the 130s, and I only saw him do it once, was Roach. The guy who some people believe is an old man and who should go and look to be in a rocking chair somewhere. Um, Lane and Shields, at no time when the stats were put up did I see them even close, really, to that mark. So, what am I saying here? I'm saying that in terms of pace, there was no difference last night on that
Right.
opening day between Graves, I'll say it again, Graves, Roach, Lane, and Shields in terms of pace.
It
In terms
is.
of who looked like getting a wicket, who looked like getting a
Yeah.
wicket? Roach, Graves,
Yeah.
Shields. I didn't think that the young man Lane's got to settle. Yes, I'm not writing him off, but in terms of pace, there was
Yeah.
no significant difference. So we're picking these guys as fast bowlers because they don't bat. That's the point I'm making. But they're no faster
Well,
than Graves. They're no
I hear
faster
you.
probably than Springer.
But
They're no
yeah, but I
faster
think,
than anybody else.
but potentially,
Uh-huh.
Shields is quicker than the lot. I would
Who's
understand
quicker than the lot? Sorry, missed that.
Shields.
Shields, yes, yeah,
But I would understand. Obviously, in this first test match, he's a little bit nervous,
yeah.
etc. Perhaps he didn't get the new ball as well, so
Mhm.
he may be a little bit confused in terms of his role
I take all that and I'm not
when
knocking
he
them
comes
down.
on to
Understand, I'm
bowl.
not knocking them down. I'm simply saying that we didn't necessarily need five of the same. Well, Seals is
Right.
a bit quicker.
I hear
So we
you. I hear you.
definitely we
But
didn't necessarily need four of the same. Okay.
yeah,
Roach was going to play because of his experience. Seals obviously is the leader of the attack in that sense, in the sense that we talk about it. And if you, I think you had to decide between, you could have decided between Shields and
Lane
Lane. Personally, I would
and
have
Lane.
gone for Shields,
Yeah.
based on what I've seen of Lane before. And you could have had your Hodge in there at that point. That's basically what I'm saying. That was one
And
option.
I guess Graves is the other seamer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But basically, if you're not following me, or for those who may be listening and not fully following me, what I'm saying is that based on what I've seen and based on my knowledge of these players, Graves is as good a four-seamer option as
As a
Shields or Lane. That's basically what I'm saying.
yeah,
And
good point.
we're playing the others because they don't bat. So okay, he's a fast bowler, but he's bowling any faster than Graves, you know. So yeah, that's just how I see it. Yeah,
Point taken.
yeah. So what were the other things that stood out for you?
For me, really, as I said, a bit of a truncated day on and off. Um, Obviously, you know, New Zealand at the end of the day probably would be quite happy with the current situation because I think their lower order managed to string some runs together to get them to this position.
Mhm.
You know, if they feel they get up to 250, they'll feel that they have really had a pretty good effort. It will still be early in the day if they do reach that. So tomorrow is likely to be quite a weather permitting, quite a torrid day for West Indies with a bat.
Well, you pretty much jumped ahead to where it was going. Looking at what your expectations for the West Indies or for the game, you're saying the West Indies could be in for torrid time given the experience and the ability of the New Zealand Pacers. So, what then would West Indies need to be aiming at? How can they plan? I'm sure they've got the same concerns of you as you knowing the conditions. So, how do they come to that?
Well, for me, really, the only one who could perhaps fight it out for a while is I think it's probably Chanderpaul. Now, if you look at the makeup of the team, the majority of them are stroke makers. Campbell's going to play aggressively, um, which is going to be a bit of a danger um, because you don't play aggressively in New Zealand against the new ball. You see it time and time again. All the teams so Campbell, I'm not sure whether his game is developed to the point where he can adapt it to a much more sedate sort of innings. Chanderpaul, well, even at times, I mean, he gets carried away and want to play a lot of shots as well.
That's because you guys criticize him, Ron Roland,
Well,
for being too
I'm not
slow.
you because some people criticize him.
Just being naughty.
um,
Uh,
yeah, but obviously Athanaze, he's going to play shots. Shea Hop will play shots. I mean, even these days, Austin Chase is playing shots. So it could be quite a tricky situation with the new ball. Don't be at all surprised if wickets fall quickly and in abundance because of that nature of the perhaps at this point in time the makeup. That's why I wanted someone like Hodge because if I lose one or two quick wickets, I really want someone who's going to show me a little bit of fight and a bit of character to try and blunt the new ball.
mhm.
So it's going to be difficult for them.
Okay, fair enough. I can't really argue with you where that is concerned. And of course, the New Zealanders will be well aware of the conditions as well and will be looking to make some serious inroads. Roland, thanks so much for sharing your thoughts on the opening day with us. Look forward to hearing from you again before the contest is over. Given what we've seen on the first day, we've got to wonder if this is going to be a 5-day contest because the conditions so far have seemed fairly bowler friendly.
It certainly has. On the evidence of what we've seen, it's highly unlikely.
Well, let's hope that if let's not afraid to be biased here. Whatever the outcome, let's hope it's in the favor of West Indies, whether it goes 5 days or before that. Who knows? This is a game of various uncertainties, and who knows who will come good on day two for the West Indies with the bat. We do know that there's an abundance of talent in the bowling attack of New Zealanders, so the guys will be up against it, the visitors.
And Philip, before we go, just really want to know, just really want to say, really received the sad news today of the passing of Robin Smith. Really has been a bit of a blow down in Australia. And really, condolences to his wife and family, and a great man gone too soon.
You said in Australia?
Robin Smith, yeah.
He was living in Australia?
I'm not sure. He might have been there watching the cricket, but
Oh, okay.
some players were with him a couple of days ago. But I got the news today that he passed away,
Okay.
sadly.
Yeah, so I did hear that news myself, so I'd also offer condolences on behalf of Anything Cricket. Let's talk to his family. And last I heard, the cause of death was unknown, and I suppose we will get some insight into that because when these things happen so suddenly, it jolts you, and you tend to want to get some information that will help you understand it and put it in perspective.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, Roland.
Philip, always a pleasure.